Hello, I'm Dr. Cheryl, and welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl, Wealth Transformation. Our show is raising the awareness and consciousness in the relationship with wealth and unconditional love. Always remember that your present situation is not your final destination. The best is yet to come by Zig Ziglar. Our show this evening is about the wealth of diversity and mixed marriage relationships with our special guest, Anne Robinson. Anne was the wife of just short of 50 years with Glen Robinson. They lived in Mill Valley, and Glen, who in 1962 was the first African American hired as a deputy U.S. Marshal's office in California, west of the Mississippi. Many Marin County residents knew Mr. Robinson through his service on the Marin County Board of Education. He was first elected to the board in 1965 and won re-election unopposed for nearly 40 years, serving until his death. Mr. Robinson grew up in Austin, Texas, but moved to California with his family in 1942 when African Americans were being recruited to work in the shipyards. He attended Tamalpais High School and was a heavyweight boxing champion and star center on a basketball team where he was selected 3 times. He later attended the College of Marin, where he was a star basketball player. Mr. Robinson served in the Air Force during the Korean War and met his wife, Anne, while coaching the ladies' softball team at Parks Air Force Base in Pleasanton. He kept calling the ladies. He needed more players. But he had his eye on me, said Anne Robinson, who joined the Air Force as a young woman because she wanted to get out of Youngstown, Ohio. Anne was interested in tennis, but finally agreed to go out with him, and they were married 8 months later. Mr. Robinson played on the Air Force basketball team and scored 68 points during a game in Alaska. After his discharge, Mr. Robinson turned down a basketball scholarship and returned to the College of Marin, graduating in 1958 with plans to go into law enforcement. He worked as a private investigator in San Rafael before he joined the U.S. Marshal's office in 1962 as its first black deputy U.S. Marshal. He steadily rose through the ranks and in 1978 was appointed by President Jimmy Carter to head the U.S. Marshal's office for the Northern District of California, headquartered in San Francisco. Mr. Robinson retired from that job in 1990 and in retirement worked as a security consultant. He also was active in various organizations including the Marin Breakfast Club, Bread and Roses, and the Salvation Army and the YMCA. In his spare time, Mr. Robinson liked to fish, play tennis, and entertain. Cooking was his outlet, his wife said, and he could prepare 9-course Japanese and Italian meals. Mr. Robinson was named Marin County Citizen of the Year in 1992 and started the Marin City Boxing Club for youth. Mr. Robinson died on January 26, 2005, 9 days short of his 50th wedding anniversary. And he has left his legacy with Anne, as we have here with us tonight. And now she can tell the rest. Anne, thank you for coming. It was such a joy to meet you at Gateway Beauty.
Yes,
I'm going to say it anyway,
yes.
in Sausalito. And I just was totally enthralled with your stories that you have to tell. And you, because I can't believe you are the age that you are, and I'm not going to say that. But you are just something else, inspirational, absolutely. And thank you for coming here, and welcome.
Well, thank you.
I have already pretty much done an overview of more of Glen, but let's start with you and tell us about you and your beginnings, and then we'll go for the stories.
It's a long story, but it's a very interesting one. I was born in a little town of Niles, Ohio, many, many years ago, of course, and then I moved to Youngstown, lived with one of my sisters for a while, and I met this friend of mine, and she said, "Anne, let's join the Navy." And I said, "Oh, okay, let's go." And so then she backed out, and I said, "Well, Virginia, I'm going to go anyway." And I wanted to leave this little town of Youngstown, Ohio. Yeah. And so I joined the United States Air Force, and I went to Cleveland, Ohio to be inducted. And then I went to San Antonio, Texas for formal training. Yeah. It was very, 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 very strict. And of course...
Is that like boot camp?
It was like boot camp. We had to shine each shoe for 1 hour.
Oh my God.
And our bathrooms had
discipline.
A lot of discipline, yes. So I went through with flying colors because I was raised by 2 immigrant Italians, my mom and dad, and I had 4 sisters and 2 brothers.
Wow.
Big family. And so my parents were very strict. And so I went through with flying colors. So then, after I completed my basic training in San Antonio, Texas, then I got orders to go to Cheyenne, Wyoming for more training. We had to look through real thick manuals for airplane parts, just by a number.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And so that was for about 3 weeks, and then we got our orders, and we were so worried. This friend that I met in the service, she and I were so worried that they were going to send us back to San Antonio, where we had our training. Yeah. But they sent us to California.
Oh, rough, rough.
Yes, so we just jumped for joy. And so,
is that when you went to Pleasanton?
Yes, it was at Parks Air Force Base in Pleasanton. And so I was very happy that I learned to type in 6 weeks, and I was a secretary. And so then I was going to go out for tennis, and then the girls in the barracks said, "Oh, Anne, we need more girls on the baseball team." Well, softball team, really.
Right.
And so I said, "Well, I really want to go out for tennis." And so they said, "Oh, no, come on out for softball." And I said, "Well, okay." And that's where I met my husband, Glen Robinson.
He was the coach, right?
He was the lady softball coach.
Okay.
And he kept hitting the balls to me, so I was the best left fielder that the girls had on the team.
He knew what he was doing.
Yes. So anyway, we traveled all over the state of Northern California, and we played softball with all the different military girls on the team. So then Glen asked me out after about 2 weeks. He asked me out, and I started dating.
2 weeks, that's all, huh?
After 2 weeks, and so then now this base was a strategic base. This was the base where the airmen would come in, and then they'd ship them overseas to go fight in the Korean War. So it was very highly, a lot of security on that base. So when I started dating my husband, Glen, he had to hide me on the floor of the back seat, of the floor in the back, and cover me with a blanket so we could leave the base, because in those days, a black would not date a white.
Of course.
Of course, you know that.
Yeah, the military especially.
In the military, yes. And so one of the girls in the barracks, she was dating a young black man, and the girls in the barracks beat her up something terrible.
Oh, my.
So when I heard about that, I said, nobody knew that we were dating for 8 months. Yeah. And the girls would say, "Anne, where are you going? You go away every week, and we don't know who are you seeing?"
It's none of your business.
Right. So anyway, I did that for about 8 months, dated Glen, and met his mom and dad. They lived in Marin City. And
our local city in Sausalito.
That's right.
Yes.
And so we lived in Marin City for a while. Oh, I take that back. Yeah, well, we managed to get married, that's right, before they shipped him to Alaska because they found out we were going to get married.
And they tried to ship him out?
So they shipped him out,
Oh.
and they sent 11 men with his same AFSC number.
Oh, my.
And because they did not want us to get married.
Where did you get married?
In
Justin?
Oakland. We got married in Oakland. And it was a rush thing because they were sending Glen away. And the judge, my maid of honor was black, and my best man was black. They were friends of ours.
Yeah, yeah.
And when the judge was saying all the vows and this and that, he would not look at Glen, he would not look at me, or he would not look at the best man or the maid of honor. So anyway, we got married. And then he went on ahead. And he went up on a big ship. I don't know why they didn't fly. Maybe they didn't have airplanes in 1955. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
But he went on he went out on the deck, and his hands froze to the deck.
Oh, no.
To the railing. And so they came and put hot water on him. But he had his wedding ring on, but he never would put it on after that. I don't know. It must have done something to him. I don't know. But anyway, so we started our life out. Then I flew up later on. And he got an apartment, and we started our life together in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Oh, my. Ah.
So, and all he did on the base, in Parks Air Force Base, he played basketball. He was a basketball star, of course.
Yes.
And then he named the Blue Devils, the basketball team. And then, when he went to Alaska, all he did in Fairbanks, he played basketball again. He represented the
rough life, huh?
Yes. So anyway, the base we were in Fairbanks, and the base that he was on was Eielson Air Force Base, and it was 26 miles from our little apartment in Fairbanks. So he had to get on the bus every morning, and then he'd go on the bus back and forth. And so anyway, they did have a base in Fairbanks. It was a Ladd Air Force Base. But evidently they wanted him there for the basketball team. I don't know. But
yeah, well, he
so
was
anyway,
the star player.
Pardon?
He was the star player.
He was the star player. And so anyway, then I managed to get a job in Fairbanks. I walked 16 blocks in 20 below weather.
Oh my goodness.
And so I worked for about 6 months. And then I got pregnant with our firstborn, Marcus. And he was born in 64 below weather.
Oh my!
And I had about 7 blankets on him. I thought I smothered him. But anyway, we met some wonderful people up there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And we didn't go bar hopping or anything like that because we didn't know that it was on 2 military bases were up there.
Yeah.
So
Did you find that there was prejudice there? Or they just
No.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We just were very careful where we went.
Yeah.
A lot of people kept staring at us all the time, and I just said, "Gee, Glen, they must be staring at us because we're a beautiful couple."
That's right.
I'm gonna take a sip of
Sweet.
water now.
No, that's sweet, especially when you were together for 50 years, even though you weren't married for 50. You were together, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh yes. So anyway, and in Alaska, we had this teeny little apartment, and the water is full of minerals in Alaska. A lot of minerals. It turned everything brown. All your dishes, all your towels, everything. So when Marcus was born, of course he had cloth diapers then, and so I washed all his diapers by hand.
Oh, yeah.
I had to boil the water. I had to buy the water. Then we, heated the water, and I did that. And all the diapers in the neighborhood were brown, and mine were white. So that's how it was with diapers.
That's cute.
But we had a good life. But we were there 2.5 years. We met a lot of very nice friends, and so we came. And then when we came, Marcus was 4 months old when we left. They were really nice on the aircraft when we came on. They made a bed for little Marcus. He was 4 months old.
Yeah.
And so my husband got discharged in Seattle, Washington. We stayed there for about a week, and then we came back to Marin City, and we lived there for about 5 years. And after 5 years, we thought, well, and then my mom wanted to come out and meet my dear husband. So we were in this teeny little apartment in Marin City, and so Glenn and I thought we better start looking for a place, in the area. So we were driving around in Mill Valley looking for a home, because in those days, in 1956, we were in Marin City for 5 years. That's right. So in 1961, we were looking for a home. So if a black family bought a home in Mill Valley, the realtor would get fired on the spot. They did not want any blacks in Mill Valley.
Even here in Marin.
So anyway, we started driving around, and we went up our street where we live now, and then we went up on Madrone Park Circle, and there was a family that wanted to sell their home, so we didn't care for it. He wanted $24,000 for it then. 1961.
Yeah.
So then as we were driving down North Ferndale, we saw these two little kids, and I said, Glenn, those look like the Maloof kids. And so we stopped, and they said, yes, we're the Maloof kids. And we said, where do you live? And they pointed to the house that we bought. So I said, Glenn, why don't we go and see if is your mom and dad home? And they said yes. And so anyway, we backed up the car and we went on the deck, and Maxine opened the door. She said, what are you doing in the neighborhood? And I said, we're looking for a house. She said, well, this one's for sale.
Oh.
They didn't even put it on the market yet.
Perfect. Yeah.
It was a spec house. He built it to see if it would sell. He was a small-time builder.
Oh, okay.
So we knew them in Marin City, but just socially, we didn't. But anyway, they moved away. We didn't know where they moved to. So we went out on the, Maxine said, well, Molly's out. His nickname was Molly, by the way. He was Russian. But anyway, we went out on the deck. She said, come and sit. And they gave us a glass of wine. We started talking. And Molly said, well, I need $5,400 down. And he said, how much do you have in the bank? Because you couldn't even get a loan then. Blacks could not get loans then. And so we said, well, we managed to save $2,000 in 5 years of marriage. Glenn had 3 jobs when we came back from Alaska. He worked in the he worked in Sausalito, making those chutes, that come for the airplanes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Escape chutes. And then he worked in the liquor store in Marin City, and then he taught a class an exercise class for women.
Oh, nice.
So anyway, Molly said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Oh, my heart sank, because I just knew we weren't going to get the house, because we didn't have enough. He wanted $5,400 down.
Right.
So anyway, Molly said, I'll tell you what, I'll loan you the second.
Oh.
So we gave him the $2,000, and he made up the second. We paid him $40 a month for, I don't know how long it took to pay off the second.
Yeah.
So anyway, when we moved in, we were the fourth black family to move into Mill Valley. The couple the first black family that moved into Mill Valley, they went away for maybe 4 or 5 days to Hawaii. When they came home, their house was burned down to the ground.
Oh,
it was gone.
That's horrible.
And then the second family was Dr. Daniel Collins, and he lived up on Summit Avenue. And all the neighbors gathered and went to his house and said, we don't want you in this neighborhood. He had about 3 children, and he and his wife. And so he said, well, I'll tell you what. If you pay me 3 times the amount that I paid for this house, you can have it back.
He was smart.
And
Did they back off?
Oh, yeah. They all became friends after they got to know him,
People. I know.
Then the other family was the Pitts, Robert Pitts and Madeline, and they lived a street over from us. They were fine. And Bob was head of HUD for a long, long time. And we were the 4 first families, so we were pioneers.
Right. So tell us about Glenn and your experience with him being the U.S. Marshal, the first.
Yeah, the first.
West of the Mississippi.
Yeah, first black marshal west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
Well, Anyway, when we lived in Marin City, Dr. Daniel Collins was the dentist in the clinic, and I would take Marcus there to the clinic. And so Dan said, Ann, he said, how would Glen like to become the first black deputy U.S. Marshal? I said, well, I'll ask him. He knew a little bit about law, but not very much, and not federal law especially. But he was a private. This private investigator hired Glen at $2 an hour to go and look at to do like a surveillance on homes, like for divorce cases, who was going in and out of the house, stuff like that.
Like a PI, sort of.
That's right. And so Glen said, yeah. I said, yeah, Glen, you should really try it. So Glen went and applied, and they hired him. So thanks to Dan Collins. I'll never forget him.
Yes.
So that's how he became the first black deputy U.S. Marshal.
Out of San Francisco.
Federal court in San Francisco.
Right.
And so he went away to school for like 3 weeks at a time, and then when he became chief deputy, he went to school for more things, whatever.
Did he have to go to D.C. for that?
No, that it was in the South somewhere.
Okay, yeah.
So then he worked his way up to chief deputy. But before he became chief deputy, he had to go and serve papers on different people that were wanted, for whatever. So this one, pardon?
Criminal.
Oh yes, yeah. So he went to Tiburon this one time, and he knocked on this door, and the man came to the door, and they had the little peepholes on the door. The man saw this tall black figure standing there, and he said, "Just a moment." And so Glen thought that was funny. Why didn't he open the door? And so when he opened the door, he shot at Glen, and Glen jumped back just in time. He almost killed my husband. So anyway, there happened to be a policeman, Tiburon policeman, right going down the street, and they
perfect timing.
They got him right away. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but there were so many incidents. But Glen never did come home and tell me about, a lot of them. Just maybe 2 or 3 all those years, all those 33 years.
Wow.
He very seldom. He just kept it all to himself.
Yeah. Well, he probably didn't want to worry you too.
No, right. And the kids, too.
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, then he worked his way up to chief deputy, and then I guess they were looking for a marshal. The marshal was retiring, I guess, when Glen was there, and so you have to be recommended by your congressman, and Philip and John Burton were our congressmen at the time. So they asked Glen, they recommended Glen to become the first U.S. Marshal. And then I forget how old, I think my daughter Stacy was 12 at the time. Yeah, it was a long time ago. And he became the marshal appointed by President Carter. And he was there he went through 3 presidents.
Wow.
And
so we have Robert Kennedy's picture with Glen, and so can you tell us about that?
Oh yes, sure. Anyway, I brought his tie clasp, but I left it in my purse. Robert Kennedy was running for president in 1968. And so he came for an anti-poverty program down in the San Joaquin Valley. So he needed a guard to go with him. So Glen was the marshal then, I think, and he went with Robert. And he was there for 3 days. So when Robert came back, he shook or hugged Glen. I'm not sure. I forgot to ask Glen. But anyway, he took off his tie clasp and gave it to Glen, and he said, "Glen," he said, I wish you could go with me to Los Angeles because that's kooky country." And they killed him 3 days later.
So Glen wasn't able to be with him when he was actually shot.
Oh no, that was in Los Angeles. Yeah. So Glen's blood pressure went up. My husband's blood pressure went up.
We just took a little break so we could get the tie clasp because this is very special.
Yes.
It's a special gift that Robert Kennedy gave Glen.
Yes, it is, and I'll show it to you right now, my dear.
And that's a good keepsake.
There you are.
What a wonderful gift. And it looks like it's a ship.
PT 109, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
That was the boat that his brother was on.
And it has Kennedy on it. Wonderful.
Remember that?
Yeah, well, I don't remember it, but I do remember the, the poor Kennedys, they have their legacy, don't they? So that's very special.
And and we were watching TV when he was down giving his speech at this big hotel in Los Angeles, and we saw him actually get shot.
Oh.
My husband saw him get shot.
Oh, that must have been just...
Yeah, because he loved Robert. Yeah, they were with each other only for 3 days, but anyway,
yeah,
he loved Robert.
The legacy lives on, totally. So I know you shared with me a little beginning of the story of how Glen deputized you in the Patty Hearst case.
Yeah.
And would you please share about that?
Sure. So anyway, they needed a female deputy marshal whenever Glen handled female prisoners, a female deputy or somebody had to go that was female. So Glen deputized me, and we started taking prisoners down to Lompoc, California.
Oh, yeah, Lompoc. Now, there wasn't any issue because you were his wife?
No.
Oh, well, that's good.
No. And so we would pick up the prisoners. One time we had 3 in the back seat, and whenever they saw Marshal Robinson come to the jail, they actually jumped for joy. Oh, Marshal Robinson, he's going to take us, because, Glen really treated them as human beings. And so then he said, do I need to put handcuffs on you now, or are you going to behave yourself? They, oh, yes, Marshal Robinson, yes, we're going to behave ourselves. So I did that for 3 or 4 months. We'd go to L.A. and would stay overnight sometime, and then we'd come back. And so we had this one prisoner. She was maybe 55 years old, and I sat in the back seat with her because she was crying. And so I sat in the back seat with her, and she was knitting going down to Lompoc.
Yeah.
And I said, what happened? Why are you going to jail? She said, they send me all these credit cards in the mail. She said, I just start using them.
A little white collar crime.
So that was one incident. But the majority of the women, they all behaved themselves, and they loved Glen because he treated them as
human beings.
Human beings, right?
Yeah.
He even let them smoke, and that was before we knew how dangerous secondhand smoke was.
Oh, you mean smoking in the car?
In the car,
oh,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Back then, we weren't as educated about health.
So then he handled. So then Glen said, Anne, how would you like to come and monitor the television and the telephone calls when the Patty Hearst jury was sequestered at the Holiday Inn? I said, oh, yeah, I'd like that. So I went.
And where was this?
When the Patty Hearst trial.
Yeah, and was that in L.A.?
San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco, okay.
Because they found her in San Francisco in an apartment, I think, somewhere.
I don't remember the details of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'd go every night for about 5 o'clock, and I'd stay overnight and go back home in the morning. And my oldest son, Marcus, was about 14 or 15 at the time, so he took care of my other 2, Stacy and Curtis. So anyway, I had to monitor the television whenever the case would come on the news or whatever.
I bet this was exciting for your children because it was such a high-profile case. The Hearst, the Hearst case. I bet they were like, tell us about it, Anyway, sorry.
So anyway, they jailed her in San Bruno, and every day for 6 weeks, every day Glen went to pick her up, and he had to get a different route because they wanted to kill her. They wanted to really kill her.
And who wanted to kill her?
Maybe the remainder of the Sudanese Liberation
Organization.
Right.
And
So, But he kept her alive, yeah, and he'd bring her to the federal building. They had a holding cell in the federal building where they held the court. And so anyway, yeah, I did that for 6 weeks. They had they rented the whole 20th floor at the Holiday Inn, the federal government.
Yeah.
And it was all, everything was computerized.
Oh, sure.
And all the doors would lock for the jury at night. They'd automatically lock. And
yeah. High profile.
Very high profile. So then when the trial was over, and Mrs. Hearst went over to Glen and gave him a big hug, and she said, "Thank you for not letting them kill my daughter." Mrs. Hearst, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
And that was the end of that trial. We took the jury out every night for 6 weeks, different restaurants, theater, for 6 weeks to keep them happy.
Oh, wow.
And one juror they were just married about a week before that he had to be a juror.
Oh.
Yeah.
That must have been hard.
Yes, yes.
But, and I know that they are screened, exceedingly screened to be jury on that level.
Oh, yes, that was really high profile, definitely.
Yeah. So is there any other things that you can share about that that's not harming?
Well, she got pneumonia, and she was in the hospital in San Bruno area there, I guess, and was on Easter Sunday, and so Glen went and stayed with her the whole day to be her guard.
Oh, sure. Yeah, in the hospital.
In the hospital on one Easter Sunday. Yeah, she was very sick, and Glen said, when he came home, he said, Anne, he said, her room was full of flowers, just tons of flowers she got from I don't know whom, but anyway.
Yeah.
And
did you ever meet the father?
Pardon?
Did you ever meet the father, Mr. Hearst himself?
No, I never met the Hearst.
Did he ever show up, I wonder, at court?
No, I think, yeah, both of them came to court, I'm very sure. Okay. But I never went into no, I was never there in the daytime. I came home at 7 in the morning, so I never did go to trial. Yeah. I never went to, I would have been not interesting, but I had my kids at home.
Oh, sure, yeah, you had to take care of them first.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
So anyway, after I decided to go back to college and get my degree in early childhood education, and so our whole downstairs was just empty. We had family rooms. We had a family room. We had some bedrooms, and so I asked Glen. I said, Glen, I'd like to start my own preschool in my home, a licensed preschool. And he said, well, I don't know about having children here every day like that, because I had my own three, and so I said, well, let me try it for a year, and if it doesn't work out, well, I had it for 22 years, my preschool in my home.
Wow.
I put 165 children through my school.
Wow.
And it was a wonderful, just 6 a morning, and but I had 12 enrolled, but I had them staggered, where like the two-year-olds to 2.5 would come Tuesday and Thursday, and the 2.5 to 3-year-olds would come Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I did that. I had a wonder, and the instructor that I learned under at the College I'm in, she was wonderful. So after you graduate from early childhood education, you have to work for maybe 6 weeks at a preschool. So I managed to work with her at Indian Valley College, and she was wonderful. So the book that she taught was her thesis, and she got an A on it. So I asked her, I said, Marge, I said, could I make copies of that book? She said, oh, sure. So I taught out of that book for 22 years.
Sweet. Yeah.
15 different units I taught. It was wonderful. Right down to the math and science for 2 and 2.5-year-olds.
Wow, that's great.
So
do you ever hear from any of your students?
Very close to 3 families and their children.
Are they here locally? Or?
Well, yeah. The Firms live 1 street over from me, and I go there all the time, and they have me for dinner. And their 2 little kids, Jake and Rachel, were in were 2 and 2.5-year-olds, and they were really naughty in my preschool. But the mom and dad, how did they do today? Did they do okay? I said, oh, sure, they were fine, you know. But now the one is at Northwestern and one's at LSU. They're both in school now, college. And
yeah, sure.
another couple live 2 streets over, and I keep in touch with them. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's
Yes.
rewarding. That's really sweet.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, is there any, what else can you tell us about you?
Well, I've had 50 years of happiness really with my husband. He was a gourmet cook, and when we entertained, he did all the cooking, and I did the setting the table and the cleaning up and all
The
that.
staging, yes, and
Yeah, he was a wonderful, wonderful chef. He loved that was his outlet when he came home. Even before he took his suit off, he just went in the kitchen and started cooking.
Well, that was nice for you.
Yes, yes. I would help in the kitchen doing the chopping or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah.
But
Well,
trying to think what else I could say about myself. But I have 3 lovely children. I don't know if I mentioned that to you. I don't think so, did I?
yes, I saw pictures of them, and I wish we had pictures, but I didn't think for you to bring them or for me to bring them. But we do have the wonderful pictures of Glen and Robert Kennedy over there, and with Ted Kennedy, and I forget the attorney's name there.
Pardon?
That the other attorney's name that's in that other picture.
Of whom?
Behind you.
Oh, I don't know if I could turn around.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
Because I got this.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's okay. Yeah, and I know we have the grandson here too.
Yeah, Curtis, my grandson Curtis, Curtis's son. I have Marcus is our realtor and one of the top realtors in Southern Marin for Caldwell Banker, and Curtis is our doctor in Mill Valley, family practitioner, and married to a lovely Jamaican wife and a wonderful daughter-in-law. And Curtis has 5 children, and Stacy, our daughter, she has 2 little boys, and Stacy is a writer, and her movie's coming out in June sometime.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
Isn't that great?
What movie is it?
It's called Bounce Back, and the gentleman that accepted the lead role is Shamar Moore.
Oh, okay.
And he was in Criminal Minds, for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But he's left Criminal Minds on. He's going to be doing something else, I guess. Maybe going into the movie business. I'm not sure, but that's coming out. So yeah, she can write.
So she wrote the script?
The script, yes.
Oh, wow.
Stacy wrote the script.
Wow.
And she started writing poems when she was about 10 years old. Lovely little poems, and she majored in history at UCLA.
Oh, okay.
But she decided she didn't want to become a teacher.
Yeah.
So then she started writing. Yeah, she wrote Tupac Shakur's autobiography too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's from Marin City.
Yes, yeah. He's from all over. His mom was just, and she just died. Fanny just died.
I think
Tupac's
I heard
mom.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
She wasn't that old.
Pardon?
She wasn't that old.
I think she was only. Was she 73?
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure, but it seems like she was pretty young.
Stacey says she was extremely bright. She was her own defense, when she was in jail. Did you know that?
Well, no.
And she got out.
And she did it
Very
all.
bright woman.
Yeah. She did a lot of studying on how to speak the language, I'm sure. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, are there any other stories that you can think of when you were deputy, or when Glen was active marshal, that you'd like to share?
Well, I'd travel with him sometime up north when we'd have to serve papers, and that was kind of dangerous too. We went into this lumberjack area, into the forest, and way into the forest. He was looking for this one man. And all these men kind of looked, they were lumberjacks, and they were cutting all these woods and trees and stuff. So that was a little scary.
Yeah.
And then another time we were stopped for gas. And this man kind of looked at me, the attendant, and he looked at Glenn. He said, and Glenn may have gone to the bathroom, I don't know, but he asked me, he says, He says something about, how come you're with that brown boy?
Oh, how rude.
We call him a brown boy, but anyway,
Yeah.
just little
Well,
things like
ignorance,
that. But
you
we
know.
prevail, though, dear.
It's amazing. You
Oh,
did.
yeah.
And I'm using this as an example, really. I think this is a wonderful example of, you know, how we can get past the mixed, you know, the differences and the prejudices that are out there. And I just think it's wonderful. And that's the main reason why I wanted you to come on the show.
Oh,
Besides, you're a lovely person, and you have wonderful stories, and these are high-profile stories.
I know.
You know, I mean, this is history. It's history, and especially, you know, since we're from Marin County, it's wonderful, and I hope that Marin City sees this, because it's a good example to follow, you know, or, you know, say, yes, the black men out there, the boys that are out there, they have just as good a chance as anybody.
That's right. Glen was raised in a ghetto. Yeah, it was a ghetto then.
Yeah.
And it was just, and he prevailed, yeah.
So I know that you had mentioned that your family, your father particularly, was very prejudiced and didn't approve of it. And did he ever come around?
He never knew. I never told him.
Oh, you just
No, but my father was he was a typical Italian man, and he was brutalized by his father, probably in Italy. And so that it's passed on.
Just the era.
He just didn't know, you know, how to. Mother divorced him when mother was married to him for 30 years, and she was so afraid to go into the courtroom, and we actually got behind her and pushed her in the courtroom.
Oh, you mean for the divorce?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been
because
hard.
My father said, if you take this house away from me, I'm going to put a bomb under it. Yeah, he was poor dad. I feel sorry for him. I forgave him, but
well, that's good.
Yeah.
Healthy for you to do that.
Yes, he was very strict, but very providing. We never went hungry. I mean, just we had to. I don't know if you ever did this, but I don't think you did. But we had to kill our own chickens in the basement and wring their necks and all that.
No.
Pluck the feathers.
I've watched it happen before, and I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, we had to do all that. And Mother canned like 500 quarts of food every summer. Yeah. And I had the smallest wrist. My wrist is still small. I could do this, right?
Yeah.
I had to wash all the bottles because I had the smallest wrist.
Oh, geez.
And the spiders. The spiders and the cobwebs and. Yeah, so we did that every summer. We had a huge garden in the backyard, everything fresh, you know, and it was wonderful. Yeah, he was a very good provider. We never went hungry, but a lot more to tell, but I don't know.
Well, it's what you feel comfortable with, you know. I just, like I said, it's an example, and to get past the differences.
Yes, and then how children are raised today compared to the way not everybody was raised like I was. We had to wash my father's feet too when he came in from the steel mills. Yeah. June and I, we were the two youngest, and we had to do that every night. He said, "You are my slaves. I'm the boss." You see how differently they're raising their children nowadays?
Not today. Actually, men are a lot more participatory today in the 30, 40-year-olds. They're more participating in, you know, more feminine roles as well as male roles.
Yes.
As women are taking more, you know, male roles. It's becoming more universal.
Definitely, yeah.
So
even my children, my Curtis and Zania, they work together whenever they're tidying up the house or whenever they cook together. And just like my oldest son Marcus and Gabriella, they do everything together nowadays. It's Stacy and Jerome. It's so different now.
Well, but you also set an example for that. You and Glen.
Oh,
because you
yes.
worked together, you know, in the kitchen, and you worked together, you know, when he was a marshal. So
Yes.
that was a wonderful example for your kids. So.
Yes. I have 9 wonderful grandchildren. They're all 9. 9 wonderful grandchildren, dear.
Well, let me ask you this. Are there any words of wisdom that you can share with the viewers? You know, that you have had, well, you've lived a legacy, really, to leave. You know, this is high profile. You know, but what words of wisdom can you give our viewers?
Well, about children, you mean, or raising children?
Well,
or?
anything that you feel compelled to share.
Well, I think the reason why my children turned out so good and done so well, that I gave them so much attention when they were small. I never did my dishes at night. I left the kitchen, and I spent so much time with them every night, homework, reading, singing to them. Yeah.
So you sing too.
Pardon?
You sing too.
I was singing. I whistled to them, and and Stacy's 2 little boys, Jason and Quincy, I used to spend nights with them too overnight, and they, Nana, can you whistle, Nana? I said, sure. Then I'd start whistling a song, the old songs that I knew from way back when, and they'd start giggling something. Then I couldn't whistle. I said, if you're going to keep giggling.
You can't whistle and laugh at the same time.
So, and I did that with Marcus's. When his girls were real young, I'd go and sit for them when they'd go out and stay overnight sometime. And with, of course, Curtis, my son, lives with me, and Zanya, his wife, and 5 kids when they were two and a half months old, all the way up to Michaela's 18 now, but she's at the University of Hawaii, and but they're all grown up now. Curtis he's 12 now, and Samira is 10. Yeah, she's 10.
Yeah.
So it's.
Well, you're so right. I mean, I raised my daughter by myself, but I was determined to be there no matter what.
Yeah.
And I gave up working full time, or I would, make sure that she was taken care of.
Yes, and that's why, and that's one reason why I started my preschool, because I was home in the house all the time when they came home from school. My 3 children, I was there for them.
Yeah, and it does make a difference.
Yes, it does. I think so.
It does. That's why I never wanted to farm my daughter out. So I was a consultant, an accounting consultant, and I would take her with me and go see my clients.
It's so important when they're small. They're like little puppies. They need so much attention.
Yes.
And I have 2 dogs too. I have 2 Cairn Terriers.
Yes, and they are cute.
So they need a lot of training too.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. If there's anything else that you would love to share, please feel free. Our time is coming down.
What else?
Anything that you feel comfortable with.
I really can't think of anything else, dear.
Okay.
Talk about the food that you would cook.
Oh, yeah, that I volunteer at the food bank every Monday. We feed about 100 people every Monday. And they put me on YouTube dancing. You gotta see that.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they did. Well, the lady that works there, one of the ladies that works there, she films everybody. And she's, okay, now you're going to be on YouTube now.
Oh, funny.
It's fun. You have to watch it.
Oh, yes, yes. So Food Bank of Marin?
In Marin City. It's held at the St. Andrew's Church.
Oh, okay.
In Marin City.
Sure, it's right there at the corner of,
Yeah.
off of Donahue there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. So you feed about 100
About
people?
100 people every Monday.
Local people? Or do they come from all
Mostly
over?
local.
Mostly local, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
It's nice.
And
I've known, how many of them that come through the line. And I said, do you remember Glen Robinson? Yes, I remember Glen Robinson. Well, I'm his wife, Anne. And they go like that.
I bet.
Because I haven't seen a lot of them in years. They're all up in their years. But, yeah. A lot of people I know there in Marin City.
Oh, that's nice.
Because we lived there for about 5 years. I told you 5 years.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Well, bridging the gap.
yes.
Bridging the
Yeah, I
gap.
feel like. And then I was honored on Mother's Day. About 10 women, 10 mothers were honored on Mother's Day. If you're 80 or older, then you were honored. So they honored me on Mother's Day, and then I had to give a little speech.
I bet you did just wonderfully.
Did you know Ida Siderman by chance? Ida Siderman. She introduced me.
Oh, okay.
She's well known in the county, and Glen knew her very well. She loved Glen.
Yeah.
So I sat at the table with her, and she said, and Betty Hodges, who runs the Hannah Project in Marin City, she said, Ida, would you introduce Anne? And so Ida was jotting all these things about Anne. Tell me about this. Can you tell me about this? Tell me about this. So she introduced me. It was very nice, lovely luncheon. Yeah, they had about 10 mothers there.
Yeah,
it was very nice.
Sweet.
And then they put all the pictures on the Marin County Post. It's called the newspaper that. Yeah,
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, they put all the mothers on the front page. I didn't even know they had that picture of me. It was really a nice picture of me.
Wow, isn't that nice that you liked it?
Yeah. So that was a nice honor.
Well,
they do a lot
sweet.
of nice things at the Hannah Project.
Nice.
They raise money for kids to go to college. Yeah, it's a nice organization there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's fine, but I so appreciate you being here and sharing these stories.
Thank you for having me. I think this is quite an honor to be here with you to tell you about my life.
Well, you've had some very interesting things to say, so I can't wait to share it with the rest of the world.
Well, thank you for having me, dear.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Rest. Remember the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own dream or illusion. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering. Don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstanding, sadness, and drama. With this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. Always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Wealth is the ability to fully experience life by Henry David Thoreau. Thank you, Marin TV, for facilitating our show, and especially to my crew, Lori, Brad, and Eric. If you like our show, please let us know at #MarinTV or on our Facebook page. Please support and become a member of Marin TV. Bye for now. Until the next time.